Hello, it's Craig. I know Reza and I said we would be talking about diseases and illnesses this week, but we're not. Sorry to disappoint you. We will have that episode for you next week. Reza and I would like to bring on remote guests in the future from time to help you with your English. And we need special software to do this. My good friend Monica agreed to test some new software with me to see if it's something we can use to bring on guests in the future. Monica and I spoke about nature vocabulary, and that's what you're going to hear in a moment. Reza and I will be back next week, we promise, with diseases and illnesses, but until then, please enjoy this special episode or in-between-isode, because it's in between our usual podcasts, with Monica Stocker from El Blog de Ingles. And thank you very much, Monica, for helping me test this software. Hello and welcome to Aprender Inglés con Craig y this week it's Monica Stocker from blogdelingles.com. Hi Monica.
Hi Craig. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on. This week Monica is our special guest and we're going to speak about nature vocabulary because recently on her blog Monica had a wonderful post and some exercises about nature. Monica, it's part of the course, right? The nature episode on your blog. Could you explain a bit about what's in that post? Because there's pronunciation practice, vocabulary, and there's an exam reading. Is that right? Or a comprehension?
Yes, correct. I am writing a course, a free course that is A2 level, CAT. I do lots of exercises that are bilingual. You have to do translations and, vocabulary with translations. And I'm trying to have one post every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So that unit that you're looking at is number 6, and we talk about nature. For example, if you're planning an excursion and you have to speak in English, you have all the vocabulary that is necessary, you know?
Yeah, it's very important vocabulary, and we're going to practice some of that today. So we also spoke about vocabulary on this podcast, inglespodcast.com/96, back in episode 96, but we did not include some of the words that Monica uses in her blog post. So this is a combination of our two blogs, and we hope you enjoy this lesson on nature. So Monica, let's start with words like cliff, for example. What's cliff in Spanish?
Acantilado.
Have you ever seen the white cliffs of Dover in the UK?
No.
Me neither.
But I haven't been there. I mean, I suppose I've seen it on films or maybe on Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't know, pictures around the world, but I haven't been there.
I haven't been there. I know they're in the south of England and they're very, very impressive when you come over from France and you see these incredible white cliffs of Dover in the south of England. But no, I haven't seen them either.
Yeah, I was thinking they must be very impressive.
It's impressive. Another word is cave, C-A-V-E.
Mm-hmm.
Cueva, is that correct?
Cueva, yeah, cueva.
For example,
yeah, so
Batman's cave.
That's a very good example. Cave, would you say that is bigger than because I was thinking in rabbits. Do rabbits have caves or they have another kind of...
They have another house.
Smaller. This is called...
Rabbits live in a hole in the ground which is called a burrow. B-U-R-R-O-W.
Yes, burrow, yeah.
A burrow. They go underground, so it's burrows. So and a bat, for example, would live in a cave and a rabbit in a burrow.
Because I think it's the size, it's a little bit bigger. Yeah.
Another hole in the ground which is very, very big is a mine. M-I-N-E.
Mine. Oh, I just have it. Madriguera. Barrow. I'm thinking madriguera.
Madriguera.
Like Madrid. Madriguera.
Madriguera.
I was thinking because when I often go for a walk around where I live. I have a field next to my house and I see all the time rabbits around here.
Wow.
So there are many madrigueras, barrows, not caves. Caves is for bats.
Right.
And mines. I haven't seen a mine. We were saying mines, mina. That's very easy, no? Like mine, mio, is also mina, no?
It is easy, but it's confusing because the mine
Yes.
we're speaking about is a noun. Coal mine, the kind of
Yes.
gold mine. But of course, you
Gold
also
mine.
have the adjective mine, which means it belongs to me. It's
Yes.
mine. This phone is mine. So it's a bit confusing. It's exactly the same word, but it's a noun.
Same word, different meaning. Another one is a stone.
Piedra.
Yeah, that's piedra. And then you have rock. But sometimes it can be confusing because I've seen people calling, or I've heard people saying rock for what we will call in Spanish piedra. Okay, what is exactly the size of a rock?
Well,
When you compare it to stone.
that's a good question. One thing that strikes me, to strike means one thing that hits me or appears to me, is that stone can also be the material. So you can use it as an adjective. So you can have a stone wall, for example, or a stone building.
That's the same in Spanish.
Yeah.
Un muro de piedra o un edificio o una construcción de piedra.
Right.
Edificio es construcción.
Obviously, stones and rocks are smaller than cliffs, but bigger than pebbles. What's pebble in Spanish?
Piedrecita, guijarro. Every time I see this word, I remember I used to do this game of throwing this pebble to the water, and you get this. How do you call that? This is a game.
Yeah, the lines in the water, the ripples.
The ripples. Yeah, the ripples. I think we had a competition with my brothers when we were children. We were playing games all the time with pebbles.
In the
Yes, and in the water. Yeah, that's what we did. So this guijarro is a very small thing.
That's new to me. I've never heard of guijarro, but I have heard of piedrecita.
Yeah, piedrecita. It sounds like virgencita pebble. So we have stone, rock, and pebble, and we don't know exactly the difference in size, of stone and rock. For me, rock is very big. That's why I'm asking, because I would never say that something that is like 5 centimeters is a rock.
As a stone.
I would say it's a stone, but sometimes I've seen it in English that sometimes people say rock.
No, I agree. I agree with that. I think rocks are generally bigger than stones. Definitely. Yeah. Have you heard the idiom, you're not the only pebble on the beach?
Yes, I have. Yeah, that means that you're not very important. You're not so important as you think you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So you're not the only pebble on the beach. There are many pebbles, okay?
You're not the only fish in the sea.
Exactly.
Especially if
No
you
eres
think...
el único, no eres el único. But because this is an idiom, actually. So it has a figurative meaning.
Imagine there's a guy in your class at school and he thinks he's really attractive and he thinks he's the gift to women and he thinks that every girl should be his girlfriend. You could say to him, hey, you're not so fantastic. You're not the only pebble on the beach. There are more men like you around.
Correct. Yes.
Grass is not a flower. A bee is not an animal. A bride is not a color. A brick is not a toy. A spoon is not a tool. You do not eat a rose. You do not ride in a bicycle. You do not play a ball.
Moving on, countryside.
Countryside.
Campo.
That is campo. And what's the difference between, because sometimes people just say country. I'm going to the country, meaning countryside.
Yeah.
It's just a way to shorten the word, or is there a difference?
There's no difference. So you can say I'm going to the country, which means outside of the city, al campo. And you can say countryside, it's the same. Just be careful knowing that country is also país. So France is a country, Spain is a country, America is a country. And countryside is el campo. And you can also use country, meaning countryside.
Yeah, fuera de la ciudad. Yeah, but you can say countryside or country, both.
Both are correct.
Then field. We have the word field, but what is the difference here? Because field you can also be used for countryside, right? But it's more specific.
Yes, it's usually a piece of land or countryside that has been prepared for something by man or woman. So, imagine a farmer wants to grow potatoes. Yes, he grows potatoes in the countryside, but he has to prepare a piece of the countryside to grow those potatoes. And that piece of land that he prepares is called the field. So you grow potatoes in a field, you grow barley or wheat.
I have fields next to my home. They grow barley, wheat, many things.
When you say you live in Madrid, it sounds like you don't live in the city, you live in the countryside.
I live in the countryside, correct. This is like 20 minutes away from Madrid capital.
Okay.
It's next to the airport in a village called Paracuellos de Jarama.
Okay.
And it's next to the river called Jarama. And that's why there are so many fields.
So when you look out of your window, you see countryside and fields and trees.
Yes, correct.
Do you see hills and meadows?
Yes, but not so many. Only one. Meadow, wait a minute. Depends. It depends, because meadows is when it's green.
Meadow in Spanish, I think, is pradera.
Yes, but there has to be something, like in the spring, when everything is blooming. I understand that, because now it looks like a desert. Everything is dry.
Is it very dry in Madrid?
Yes, because it hasn't rained. So meadows, I don't think we can call it meadow now. In spring for sure, because at least last spring was very green. Because you see, but meadows, is there a specific plant? Or I'm thinking pradera. I'm a very urban person. I don't know too much about these things. I'm sorry.
Me too.
But
when I think of meadows, you're right. I do think of flowers and spring and butterflies, and especially maybe fields of crops, cosechas, rolling hills and countryside. Beautiful scenery. Yeah. Let's move to the coast and look at some words.
Oh, that sounds so good. Move to the coast. You live next to the coast. I don't. I live in Madrid. So
we're moving from your area to my area.
Yes. So that's great.
Here's a question for you. What's the difference between sea and ocean?
Oh, I think sea refers to a specific sea.
Yeah.
And ocean is much bigger.
Correct.
Like no different seas, the Black Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, no?
Yeah. And also seas are generally partly or completely surrounded by land. For example, if you think of the Mediterranean Sea, you have lots of European countries around the Mediterranean Sea. So it's a smaller body of water, whereas oceans, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, are huge and not really surrounded by land, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean. Beach. Okay, beach we all know.
Beach we all know.
Common. Yeah, I think it's a very common name. Everybody knows, even in Spanish. And then we have lighthouse. I adore this word.
Me too.
I don't know, so romantic. Lighthouse. Like, it sounds like faro. In the movies, like, there's an island with only one lighthouse. It's light and house. It's very easy to remember.
Yeah.
Because it's luz y casa. Casa, donde está la luz. Okay, that's a faro. When you have to say it, you don't remember. What is it?
Because when you think of faro, it doesn't sound anything like lighthouse. It's a completely different word. So
it's
maybe when you try to translate and you have to think of it, yeah.
But also, if you don't live next to the sea, you don't use this vocabulary too much. That's also the reason. Because it's not very common to speak about lighthouses, for example, in Madrid. There are no lighthouses here. Very much in the middle of the country.
Another word that's quite easy to translate is Gulf, G-U-L-F.
Yes, and I think everybody knows this word because of the war, a Gulf War. There was a war some years ago, well, maybe 20 years ago.
The Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Mexico, for example.
Yes.
But here are some words that are often confused. Bay, bahia, cove, cala, harbour, puerto, and
Port.
port.
Okay, harbor and port.
Yeah.
That's the most confusing one for
So
me.
do you have any idea? I had to check this, but do you have any idea?
If you have to check, you're cheating.
Yes.
You're a native speaker. You're a native speaker.
I know.
You should know. You shouldn't check. I have to check.
Let me
Okay.
explain. Let me explain. I wanted to
Yeah.
give the correct definition and not guess, and I didn't want to guess on the podcast.
I know, but this happens to everyone. It happens to me too. I mean, in Spanish or in English, I have to check sometimes because I don't know everything.
Do you have any? I mean, have you ever explained this to students? Do you know the difference?
Probably I did, but I forget. This is the kind of thing I completely forget. One must be man-made, and the other one is just natural. But I don't know which one it is.
Exactly, you're exactly right. So port or puerto, port
Yeah.
is usually man-made and
Yes.
more commercial. So if you think of huge ships bringing in cargo and they have to load, which is cargar, load and unload all the things from the ship, that's a port. Whereas a harbour can be man-made or it can be natural. And it's just where a ship can shelter from the weather and maybe be stored, like a parking space for boats, for example. So sometimes the harbours are man-made, sometimes they are natural because of the land, and it's just where a ship can go to protect itself from the weather.
I love the word you said. The ship can shelter. Oh, it's like you need shelter. Shelter. So refugio. Es
Exactly.
un refugio in Spanish. Harbor. So I don't know. In Spanish, do we have a different word for this? Did you look it up?
No, it's the same word, puerto.
I think it's the same word.
Yeah, puerto.
Yes, it's puerto natural. Y puerto puede ser puerto comercial.
Exactly.
So, for example, Barcelona would be puerto comercial, and harbor, I don't know any.
There are many harbours from where I live in Valencia going down the coast to
you
Alicante.
live on the you live on the coast, and so. No, I wanted to say about cove. This is a word I discovered not so long ago because I was very confused. Cala.
Cala.
Cala, this is beautiful. Also, there are many coves where you live, right?
Yes, as I was saying, if you travel from Valencia to Alicante and you go along the Costa Blanca, you find both those words. You find small fishing villages with harbours for the fishing boats. And in between the fishing villages and towns, you find beautiful coves, which are small.
Beaches.
Yeah. And they're beautiful coves where you can go and sunbathe and swim and snorkel.
Exactly. The coves, it's like a private beach, I would
Yes,
say.
exactly.
It's very cozy there. And so that's why everybody's looking for coves. And when it becomes very popular, it's not nice anymore because you don't fit in there. It's so small. So it's better to look for coves that nobody knows.
And then you can sunbathe nude.
Exactly, also. Okay.
Moving on to lake. So lake lago, which is fairly common. But what is the English word for estanque?
Pond? Pond is estanque.
Yes.
So pond, I would say, is artificially made too. But wait a minute, there's also another.
What?
Isn't it also possible to say charco, but you say charco? Pond is, can it be like some water that accumulated after the rain?
That's puddle. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes. So when it rains in the city
No.
a
Yes.
lot, you get puddles. That's Puddle. So be careful not to step in a puddle. And ponds are where frogs and mosquitoes live.
It's man-made.
A pond can be man-made or it can be natural.
Yeah,
So-
but that's why I'm saying that sometimes in Spanish we call it charco, the rain when there is accumulation of rain, but also charco because of there's always rain after all.
Yeah.
But it's bigger and it's permanent. They say more permanent because a puddle will go away when it's dry, no?
Exactly. And also a puddle
Yeah.
tends to be shallower and a pond will be deeper. Maybe a pond has life in it, like fish or frogs or insects, whereas a puddle is
doesn't.
only something on the ground that remains when it rains. So some water on the ground in a city is a puddle.
Okay, and have you ever taken a dip in a swamp?
No. But that's also a place where you'd find lots of mosquitoes.
Oh,
because it's a
And smelly
breeding-
sometimes.
Yeah, and smelly. Swamp is it pantano or pantano?
No, pantano.
Pantano. Sorry.
Pantano. But the funny thing is that, wait a minute, in Spanish, especially in Spanish from Spain, pantano is not only swamp. Pantano is a tank where they keep the water for consumption, human consumption.
A water tank.
A water tank, right. So you would have two words there, different. So you cannot say that's a swamp because you can even swim there.
Right.
And it's clear water. And next to Madrid, there are several these water tanks. But it's also called pantano in Spanish from Spain, okay? Because in Spanish from South America, pantano is a swamp.
Interesting. We have another two words here connected to water, river and stream. Stream, S-T-R-E-A-M, riachuelo. Stream.
Yeah, riachuelo. They can be a smaller river because a river can be very big, and then you have a stream when it's narrow. No.
Can you see any streams from your window in Madrid?
No, because it's very dry here.
Of course.
This is almost like a desert. No, but a stream also means another thing, and a stream has many meanings.
It does. You can stream
Yes.
video on the internet.
Yeah. It's the same origin of the word because a stream is un flujo, algo que viaja, no, algo que stream. So you can use it in a way it's a figurative riachuelo. So stream because it's like connection.
Also, if at this time of year, it's very common for people to have hay fever or allergies, alergias. So if you do suffer from hay fever, your eyes stream. The water flows out of your eyes, so you have streaming red
didn't know
eyes.
that.
My eyes are streaming, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And if you have a cold. Iceberg, moving on. Now, iceberg always makes me laugh because it's exactly the same word in Spanish, but with different pronunciation. Do you say iceberg?
Iceberg. Yeah.
Iceberg.
Yeah, it
Iceberg.
sounds very. Yes, it sounds very. It's actually a Germanic word
Uh-huh.
because berg means mountain in German.
Oh, okay.
Ice mountain.
Interesting.
I was just looking at it and I'm thinking, no, that's the origin. Mountain of ice, iceberg. The only thing is that even if it is the same word, you don't know how to say it because if you don't know the pronunciation, it's a completely different word in Spanish and English.
Yeah, and because it's kind of like a compound noun, the stress will be on the first part of the word.
Iceberg.
So, iceberg.
Yeah.
Let's move on to desert and dune. Now, desert is sometimes confused by Spanish speakers with dessert. What's the difference, Monica?
Oh, the pronunciation and double S.
Correct.
Desert.
Which is which?
Desert is desierto, only one S.
Yep.
There's a desert in the Sahara Desert, for example, in Africa. And the third is, well, like an ice cream fruit, what you eat after a meal.
Postre.
Postre.
Yeah. And in deserts, that's the desert with one S, the desert with a stress on the first syllable, you sometimes find dunes, D-U-N-E, which is a mountain of sand that's been blown into shape by the wind. So a sand dune. Sand dunes are found in deserts.
They're very beautiful.
They are.
Okay, I used to go down the dunes when I lived in Chile, remember, in the summer.
Wow.
With my brothers. Let's go down the dunes. There were some dunes on a beach. There was a beach that had these dunes. It was like a desert. So dunes. But I think the word dune is very easy for Spanish because it's duna. It's the same.
Yeah, it's similar. Okay, moving on to some more and our final group of confusing words. So we have earth, terreno. No, sorry. We have earth, soil, ground, land, mud, and dirt. Now, they're all very similar, but not exactly the same. Earth, obviously the earth, where we live, the planet Earth. So you need an article with that, the earth, the moon, the sun, etc.
That would be la tierra in Spanish.
Exactly. But it also has another meaning, because if you go outside your house, Monica, in Madrid, and you go to the countryside that you're very close to, and you look on the ground, you will find probably earth where the flowers are growing.
Exactly, but I would also call it either soil or dirt, depending on what you do with it, right?
Yes, so all of those three could be tierra, couldn't they?
Yes. In Spanish, there's only one word, and in English, there are many words for the same thing, with different meanings, of course. But for us, it's only one word. So that's why it's so confusing, because when do you say earth, and when do you say soil, and when do you say dirt?
Good question. Soil, I would say when I was planting flowers, for example,
Exactly.
or a tree
so you
or a bush.
Soil is a kind of dirt that is prepared to cultivate plants, to grow plants. Okay,
And
that's soil.
And after you've planted your flowers, you might have some dirt under your fingernails.
Yeah, dirt is in the sense of yes, that's where dirty comes from, the adjective. It comes from the word dirt. There's a noun. And Spanish is, you can say, oye, tienes tierra. It's the same word.
Yeah.
But in that case, you would say, no tienes soil, you have dirt. So, tienes tierra, in the sense that you get dirty with it. Dirty. So, sucio, algo sucio is dirt. Okay.
And ground just means suelo. So the ground is anything that is el suelo. You can have...
but ground can be inside or outside.
Well, if it's inside, I would say floor.
Yes, but if you take the lift or the elevator...
To the ground floor.
It says it's ground floor, so why are you saying that it's only outside? Because I heard this. It's also inside. This is very confusing.
It is confusing. The collocation ground floor is very, very strong. So when you're speaking about
buildings, that's a collocation.
Yeah, you definitely say ground floor, first floor, second floor.
That's why I'm saying it. But you also use it inside. Ground floor. Let's go to the ground floor. But you add floor. Let's go to a ground.
But if I was speaking about the ground in my flat or in my house, I would probably say floor. Like, where's my pen? It's on the floor.
Now, of course.
We have a wooden floor in our flat.
Yeah. Floor is the word that you use for when you have carpets or you have wooden floor, any material. It's artificially made in a way, floor.
Exactly. And finally, mud, which is barro.
Mud, mud. It's difficult to pronounce this word because you can confuse it with mad, like crazy.
Mad, mad, M-A-D, and mud, M-U-D.
Yeah. So, mud and also land. We didn't mention land. Land is more generic, plot of land, no? Land could be anything.
Yeah.
Suelo en sentido, and I bought a piece of land, como una parcela. So it's very generic. But I still don't have clear the difference between earth, soil, and dirt. I mean, I know the earth, okay, el planeta, but earth in the sense of, it's also generic.
Yeah, but earth becomes soil when you start to cultivate.
But can you give me an example of the word earth used in a sentence without meaning the planet?
Yes. I went walking in the countryside and we were walking on stones, pebbles, and earth.
Oh, yeah. You see? You can use
it there. When I want to plant my flowers, then it becomes soil because it's used to grow something.
Okay, correct.
What was the other one? Dirt is when something is dirty. For example, if the soil goes under your fingernails or on your clothes, it becomes dirt.
Now I have it clear. Okay.
Grass is not a flower. A bee is not an animal. A bride is not a color. A brick is not a toy. A spoon is not a tool. You do not eat a rose. You do not ride in a bicycle. You do not play a ball.
So let's see how the listeners are remembering these words and this vocabulary. Why don't we say a sentence, or why don't you, Monica, please say a sentence in Spanish?
And then
I'll pause for 1 or 2 seconds so that the listener can say the word in English. So you translate Monica's sentence into English and then check when I say it and then repeat it if necessary.
Okay. Number 1. Esa pradera es muy bonita.
That meadow is very nice.
El faro se ve desde mi casa.
The lighthouse can be seen from my home or from my house.
Oh, that's very short. You didn't leave any space for the listener to...
Well, I'm going to edit it. I'm going to put the pause in when I edit it.
No, but you can put all this. Okay, I think it's funnier. That's very short. El faro se va desde mi casa. The lighthouse can be seen from my home. Oh, come on. You're a native speaker. Yes, exactly. Okay. Number 3. Nunca he estado en el desierto.
I've never been to the desert.
Number 4. Vamos a las dunas.
Let's go to the dunes, as you used to say in Chile.
Yeah, that's what I used to say. Let's go to the dunes. This was great. Number 5. Hay piedrecitas en el río.
There are pebbles in the river.
6. El jardín está lleno de barro.
The garden is full of mud.
7. Vimos una cueva muy antigua.
We saw a very old cave.
8. Era una mina de oro.
It was a gold mine.
And 9. El estanque estaba seco.
The pond was dry. So, Monica, would you say you were a city person, or do you prefer the nature and living in the countryside?
I like this question because I'm changing. I've changed. I used to be a city person, very much a city person, because I was born in a city. I lived always in big cities. Now that I'm older, I like more to be in the nature. And it's strange. And you? What about you?
I've always been a city person, and I still feel more comfortable in the city. I do like going outside of the city. I do like traveling to places of natural beauty, but I always like to get back to the city. But similarly, I do find as I'm getting older, I prefer quieter places. I don't like crowded, busy, loud city areas. So I do find I'm trying to escape and get away from lots of noise and traffic and people. But I still prefer the amenities and the comforts of the city.
Yeah, me too. I think it's exactly the same.
So you living in Madrid, how often do you manage to get to the coast and see coves and bays and harbours?
I go once a year because it's actually far. Well, now you can take the train and it's quite easy to go to Valencia, for example. Mm-hmm. But I don't have too much time, actually. So I have to wait until the summer. I usually go once a year. And you're always...
I'm always here, yeah. So I don't
That's
go...
a privilege, no?
I don't like going on the beach. I enjoy looking at the sea. I enjoy walking next to the beach, but I don't like going on the sand except when children come to visit or I have guests and then we go to the beach and play in the sand. But I don't really like going on the sand. The sand gets in your clothes, in your sandals, in between your toes, under your finger. I don't like it.
There's exactly the same feeling I have. As I grow older also.
Yeah, me too.
I'm bothered by the sun. It's like everywhere. Okay.
We're getting very old and grumpy, Monica. Well, I am. We're getting very negative.
This is true. This is it.
Tell me this, what's the most impressive and amazing natural place or landscape that you've seen? Like a panorama or paisaje?
I think Niagara Falls when I was
Wow.
6 years old. I remember. It was so impressive that I
Yeah.
still remember. Because I remember walking, you had to wear like a raincoat. I remember you have to wear special clothes.
I've heard that the Canadian side is more impressive than the American side. Is that true?
I don't know. I do remember I was in the American side, but it was quite impressive. Maybe because I was 6 years old. I don't know. It was so big, seeing this, waterfall.
Amazing.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Definitely a river and not a stream, I think.
No, definitely a river, yeah.
Which natural wonder or nature reserve would you most like to visit in the future?
I never thought of this. It's a good question.
Is there one place that really attracts you, that you think, oh, one day I want to go there and experience that?
Maldives, probably. Have you been there?
No, but that's also on my list. I'd love to go there. It looks like a paradise.
Yes, I suppose New Zealand, because they told me it was one of the nicest countries on earth. And probably Maldives. That would be for me. Well, I suppose it's just, that you always see these very nice pictures with this clear water and very nice landscape.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful.
And you? Do you have a special place, natural wonder or nature reserve that you would like to visit?
I'd like to go to Yosemite National Park in California. You've been there?
Yes.
Have you seen the huge redwood
That's
trees?
fantastic. Yes.
Sounds
Very,
amazing.
very nice. Huge trees where you can even cross, there are also tunnels,
Wow.
Well, little tunnels. Yeah, that's very nice, very impressive.
Yeah, maybe
Definitely.
one day I'll be able to go and see it.
Yes. I would like to visit other places where you have been. Like, I would like to see this. What is the name of these lights, different colors?
The Northern Lights in
The Northern Lights. Yes.
Scandinavia.
Yes, I would like to go there. That's also one of the my wish list.
And where would you like to go and see, or which wonderful natural places have you experienced in your life? We'd love to hear about it, so please send us your voice messages. You can do that on speakpipe.com/inglespodcast. I want to thank Monica very much for joining us this week, so thank you, Monica. If people want to go to study your nature vocabulary and Unit 6, which also has prepositions as well, where can they find that material online?
Well, we'll put a link because it's in blog para aprender inglés. If you type that, you will get there, and it's CAT A2 level. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you very much. It was
Thanks.
lovely. And again, blogdelingles.com. Go there and explore Monica's wonderful materials and courses there. Also on Twitter, right? And Facebook, they can find you.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I'm everywhere.
Okay, all of the links will be in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/228. Thanks again, Monica, and I hope you'll come back and do this again sometime.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye. I know what you're thinking. No, it wasn't Monica and I singing on this episode, although I kind of wish it had been. Next week, Reza and I will be back talking about diseases and illnesses. And maybe Reza will be singing. I don't know. You'll have to wait and see. See you next week.